This really feels like a crash course. I trying to stay up on things and get better at it, but you're just winging it, and it's pretty easy to get overwhelmed. Woo! It's fun though. I got a new tripod thing that it's like a vlog pod. That's what they call it, but I'm using it right now. Ulanzi, and I like it, but also it's like learning new muscles. My arm's tired from holding it. It's like with this camera, it's a little bit heavy. This week there's a bunch of wild things. Oh yeah, sure, yeah. There's some interesting things going on this week. One, I got a mustache. That's always good. And like externally and internally, a lot of times they reflect each other, but then seeing behaviors in ourselves. Last week I got a new roommate, Destiny, who's awesome and long-term tenant. She'll be with us for a while. And then spontaneously, my mom is moving out. Finally grew up. She's getting out of the house, and we're really proud of her. She's her first apartment. No, not really. Obviously, she's actually she moved in with us from the beginning because she was on a list for an affordable housing because the apartment that she was in, the rent kept going up, even though it was a senior housing out in Sequim, but it was every lease would go up like $100 or $150, and her Social Security doesn't go up as fast. There are living adjustments every year, but not as fast as the housing market in Washington. So in order to save some money, she moved in with us, and it was kind of undetermined amount of time until she could get into this affordable senior housing. And if you or anyone has had someone looking for senior housing or affordable housing, you will know that it's full. Like every senior housing place my mom looks has a wait list, or it's just closed. And even this one, when we first talked to them, they said that it could be 3 months to a year maybe, but it's really hard to determine. But then the last time she talked to them, they said that they don't think that she's going to get a room for 2 years or more. The lady was really skeptical. But then a couple weeks after my mom talked to that lady, she got a call and units available. And so we're hustling to, sorry. We're hustling to get the paperwork in and get her all set up to move in. So someone moved in, my mom's moving out, so that means get the room ready, and then next month we'll get another roommate in there. So how that plays out for me is also realizing that my life isn't necessarily where I want it to be. There's some things, some goals that I tend to get ahead of myself. One thing that I don't know if you can relate to, but my mind always works 10 times faster than my reality. And so the life I envision for myself, or the project that I'm working on, I will get myself 100 miles down the road, and then I feel this discomfort or dissatisfaction when things aren't where I want them to be, or really like where I've imagined them to be. And it's caused me a lot of stress in my life. And on top of getting ahead of myself, I don't think I've ever been a very content person in life. There's something that's in me that has always been somewhat uncomfortable, and just like it's that existential dread. I think it's what drove me to depression, what drove me to substance for a long time, and turned me to escapism and disassociating. It's a lot better now. I've learned a lot. I've come a long way, and I've come to terms with a number of things and learned how to appreciate life in a lot of different ways, but it took a lot. But it still creeps up a little bit. And what I realized is that when I'm feeling that way, that's when my goals not being where they are, or my dreams not being realized, starts to really weigh on me and make me more uncomfortable. And I also realized that that's huge for my relationships, that I don't think I've ever felt secure in a relationship, but I also realized that I never really recognized it, that when I'm feeling uncomfortable and I have a partner there, my attention will go to them and focus on they're the reason that I'm not fulfilled. Like, they must not be satisfying me in some way, or this relationship isn't a good fit because I'm still not happy. But really, like, I'm not that happy at all, ever, even on my own. I mean, I'm pretty good. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm having a good time. We're having a good time. Honestly, for me, it's easier being alone because I feel bad, because I just like put a lot of that onto another person. And man, I love the heck out of the people that I've gotten to spend time with. I realized, like, after the fact, it's been somewhat unfair. I can't go back and, explain this, but I hope for anyone that's watching this, I'm sorry that I channeled my existential dread onto you and really like caused unnecessary rifts in our relationship. And like, I don't think any of the relationships could have worked because I had to work on myself. But this uneasiness that I experience, I realize what happens is I get frantic to change something. So this happens with relationships. This happens right now. How it's manifesting is that my housing situation is changing, and my financial situation is also changing, where I'm working on YouTube and content creation, but that money hasn't come in yet. So like with the cafe, it really like it sustains me, but I'm not getting ahead. Like it'll take some time. Like anytime these things are changing in my life, whether it be relationship wise, house wise, external wise, my mind goes into this puzzle fixing mode where I'm like, how do I fit this financial piece where I'm making money, living easily, I'm working on YouTube, I have a place to live. So this round, it's like I'm gonna get a roommate, but then my room that I'm in is the biggest room, so I would be able to rent it for the most. So it's crossed my mind, like me moving into the small room, but then it's like I've got all my stuff, my video equipment, etc. And then I thought about, well, what if I have that as an office, and then I buy a travel trailer and I live in the travel trailer, and that's an idea, but then I'm buying a travel trailer and I'm living in the yard. And with that, like with the travel trailer, I'll like convince myself, because at some point I'm gonna buy a piece of property and move out onto the property to build a house and do some homesteading. But the thing is what I need right now just create stability and balance, not shift everything else around me. Because if I do any of those other things, like sure, yes, I'm gonna rent the room, but all those other pieces will just be time that I could be like focusing on getting better at making videos. And through all this frantic puzzling that my mind goes through, it comes back to patience. And the thing that I am most in line with and want to keep doing is YouTube, and taking all the time that I would to like figure out those things and change those things and focus it on getting better at making videos, making more useful videos, and trusting in the process that I've set for myself. When there's a little hitch in something, it can cause this kind of frenzy of puzzling and franticness. And I don't necessarily want to call it anxiety because it doesn't always feel like anxiety, but it feels like I'm in a rush to like change something and see progress, where a lot of what I'm doing right now, I don't see a lot of progress. I just have to know, like, yes, I'm getting better at this. you know, that's just one aspect. And then along with all that house stuff and that internal stuff, I still have the lawsuit going on. So I'm suing this lawyer that I hired to do I'm suing this plumber that I hired to do some work for me, and I couldn't get him to come back to finish the job. And last week or the week before, we found out that he hired these expensive lawyers. And this week we were a little rattled because basically when he did that, we realized that the lawyering was going to get a little out of control. It's really not that much money in the scheme of things. And if they were going to do their lawyer dance for too long, it just would have been a waste of money. Like, the lawyers would have made money and nobody else would. So we were a little bit worried about that, but some logic prevailed where their lawyers actually offered to make a settlement because it'd be cheaper just to settle for a reasonable amount rather than to have the lawyers go to battle. So they offered the settlement and we counter-offered, and the counter-offer was a little bit more, to be transparent. It was almost as much as the job, like I paid for the whole job, but with the amount of delay and everything, it felt somewhat justified. But he denied it, so that's kind of where we're at this far. And then I have an opportunity to still accept their original offer, and so we're deliberating right now to see if that's going to be worth it or if we're going to go head to head into the lawyer arena. At this point, it's getting a little lengthy, a little bit of extra paperwork, so we're gonna keep chipping away at it, keep talking about it, and then probably in the next video we'll see how it all turns out. Or, lawyers being lawyers, it might be delayed, I don't know. Those are really the big things. But been going snowboarding. I got sick last week. I do feel like I'm annoying people because all I really want to talk about is YouTube at this point. I've also realized, like, I don't really see myself doing anything else, like between like hosting events, making videos, going on adventures. Like, the idea of going back to some job where someone tells me what to do and expects me to be there when they want me to be there is not quite as appealing. So I think I'm just gonna keep doing this and make it work.